May we now request Dr. Lau to please do her presentation.
Hello, can you hear
Hello.
me? Yeah,
Yes.
hi.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have a PowerPoint presentation. I will react directly on the information and data shared by our four presentations. And what I would like to first say is that I appreciate very much even just the care that they have taken to sort of focus on gender and climate change and resilience. Mentioning, for example, their titles, talking about gender roles in the household and how this has been transformed. Climate smart solutions, gender-based risk management, women's voices, and gender and resilience. Indeed, it takes a little bit more time and effort to really look specifically at what are the effects of climate change on particular sectors. And I appreciate the nuancing that each presentation has made, given their very different contexts. So I have 4 points, and in making these 4 points, I will use the panel presentations to further clarify these points. The first point that all four have spoken about or have presented on is that the best data they found is data from the ground. Dr. Rabani, for example, in the first presentation talks about observations such as how fishing spaces were shrinking and how the rivers were slowly becoming more saline in their content. And Dr. Wanun talked about local communities having observed changes on the ground in particular. And Dr. Bertusa talking about how she has seen incomplete information also on the ground, in particular in marketing, for example, as if, for example, all of the data comes from the market traders, there's nothing much to be heard elsewhere. So they wanted to change that. And finally, Bolanos and Bersilia talk about multiple hazards as well. So the best data is from the ground. The best data is from those who directly experience these shifts, no, and these risks and how it affects, in particular, their own lives, their livelihoods. And on that note, the second point is that the best solutions are also on the ground. So Dr. Urbani, for example, talks about focusing on women-headed households as part of their solution. So focusing on solutions that have to do with their livelihood. So for example, providing small-scale enterprises and focusing on what they need in order to improve this. Dr. Wanun focused on solutions needed to be included because in terms of women, for example, the burden is sometimes felt differently by women. So it is more of a burden. Some solutions, she said, are more of a burden on women, and some of the solutions do not focus on women's needs. So I appreciated that comment of hers that some solutions actually have an effect on, for example, the amount of sleep and rest that women get. And Dr. Bertuso talks about participatory and built-in solutions. And finally, Bolanos and Bersilia talk about the role of household organization. On the third point, on gender, looking through the four panel presentations, Dr. Rabani talks about the importance of gender disaggregated data, gender-specific risks, gender-specific solutions, and Dr. Wanun talks about increasing the political space. And this I very much appreciate, that the political space has to be analyzed and it has to be defined in a particular way. so that solutions, appropriate solutions, even political ones, can be moved forward. Dr. Bertuso talks about promoting gender equity and policy implications, and I wonder what exactly this would mean in the context of the module she presented. And the last presentation was very clear, talking about the transformation in power relations, the difference in reducing gender-based violence, recognizing women's contribution, and increasing income based on their particular capacities. And the last point I would like to make is on the importance of system. And there are two particular presentations who talked about the importance of system. First was Dr. Wanon, talked about the need to look at male-dominated structures to understand how this bears more firmly on solutions, or this actually weighs heavily, sorry, on solutions. And finally, Bolanos and Bercilia talking about the importance of family. So to focus at the household level means also to focus on the dynamics at the family level. Therefore, understanding also very intimately what the possible solutions are. So again, thank you very much to the four presenters. It indeed was a pleasure to hear all and to see, how the different presentations, even if they belong to totally different regions and totally different contexts, actually have the capacity to speak together and speak to each other on this important issue of climate risk, gender, livelihood, and resilience. Thank you.